Hey, what's up? I'm Chris,
I'm Katya.
and together we're Break Out the Crazy, a singer-songwriter duo based out of New York, Brooklyn to be exact. And we've been putting out music together since 2015, I think, and in English and Spanish and a bunch of different genres. And so we decided to kind of do this where we sit down and just kind of have conversations about songwriting and other things too.
We decided to sit down and do this because we talk all the time.
Exactly.
And we thought maybe it would be cool to create a community where we could talk together about these things. A lot of it is based around what we do. A lot of it is based around music and songwriting.
What we know.
But some of it is based off of other things and just things that occur to us and comments and observations. And so it could pretty much go anywhere, actually.
In this specific video, though, we reacted to the Celine Dion documentary. We talked about songwriting itself, songwriting versus singing, the state of music, state of the music business in terms of songwriting, when it comes to songwriting and the importance of songwriting and all of that.
Right, of course.
What else did we talk about?
Just a bunch of stuff. You got to watch it.
Watch it. Can you see me?
I feel like you should cheat a little more to the side. Yeah,
Like
how
that?
you were.
Am I censored there?
Yeah,
Alright,
perfectly.
cool. Well then, here we are once again.
Here we are.
Yeah.
This is us, Sorry, I had to get the right key. I know.
What song is that? Who sings that?
The greatest composer of our time, Stevie Wonder.
Oh, wow. Had you heard that song that chick sang the other day? So far?
No.
It's nice, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes.
She sang a Stevie Wonder song?
Correct. Of course I've heard that song.
Oh, I didn't know that song.
Really?
What was it? Something about golden
Golden
lady, right?
Golden lady, I like to go there. It's beautiful.
You're beautiful.
He's a master. He's the master blaster. He also has a song called Master Blaster.
Oh.
He's the greatest ever.
And isn't it interesting, that song, just like the Knocks Me Off My Feet, he's talking about I see, like in my eyes or in I see. Like I think the first line she sang in that song was something about seeing. And Knocks Me Off My Feet, he does it too. Like he did that often.
Wow.
Which brings another layer of like, yo, Stevie's the man. Like writing about seeing. You see it?
Looking in your eyes.
Yep.
Kind of heaven eyes. Looking in your eyes. Yeah. Closing both my eyes. Waiting for surprise. To see heaven in your eyes is not so far. Wow. So he wrote, obviously, You Knocked Me Off of My Feet.
Right, which is, I see us in the park. Talking about seeing.
Wow.
Isn't that enough?
Crazy. I see us in the park.
Yeah, and I bet it's not the only 2 times. I bet he's done it more than twice. The whole talking about seeing. Now, how did he have sight when he was born? I guess he did, and then lost it. But as far as I can remember, all videos of Stevie show him as blind.
No, I think he's always been blind. He was born premature, thus he had to be incubated. The oxygen pumped into his incubator worsened the blood vessels in the back of his eyes, causing him to go blind.
Oh, wow. So it didn't even have to happen. That's probably the kind of shit that used to happen back then and now it doesn't happen anymore.
6 things you didn't know about Stevie Wonder. He doesn't just sing. Well, I knew that. 6 things I didn't know.
Who didn't know that?
His instrumental album, Red Now Avits, is Stevie Wonder spelled backwards.
What? How do you read it?
Red Now Avits is Stevie Wonder spelled backwards.
He made an album called Red Now's Avit?
It's an instrumental album.
Oh my God.
He wasn't born blind.
Yeah.
It's the oxygen pumped into the incubator. Wow. He temporarily lost his sense of taste and smell In 1973, he was in a car accident, putting him in a coma for several days. When he woke up, he lost his sense of taste and smell, but regained his lost senses shortly after.
Oh my God.
Guess who he told to shut up? Lil Wayne.
Ah.
Who kept interrupting his show.
Oh, that's funny.
The first song he ever learned to play was Three Blind Mice.
Oh.
That makes me want to cry. To think about all of the beauty he's brought, all the like the gorgeous songs and melodies and experiences. Like he's more than an artist. He's like, I don't know. He's significant in ways that I can't even freaking describe.
It's super fascinating to me that a blind person has a concept of sight, though.
Of course.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, to even have a concept of it and thinking about seeing and hearing people sing. Like, I'm super curious to hear someone talk about that. And
But
I'm sure
maybe
there's-
it's even more so pronounced with him since he has to imagine what that feels like. So it becomes a fascination in expressing yourself like that. And maybe he does look in a way, right? He looks in his own way,
Wow.
but ironically not with the eyes.
I guess with hearing, you can also kind of echolocate. Like, you can get a sense of the space that
Well,
you're
blind
in
people do.
and the things
Blind
that...
people do. They all their senses get super heightened.
Yeah, I mean, we all do it, though. We all do it. It's just very subconscious.
No, I'm saying that if you lose a sense, your other senses get heightened,
That's what they say.
like super heightened.
Yeah, it's so wild. It's so wild. But then to go proceed to be a songwriter and then start writing songs and then like weaving that into your poetry, you know, concepts like sight, but like perfectly using the word sight and vision and I see and I look at you. Like, why was he doing that? Why did he do that? Because he was being like a smart business guy. He was like, I'm gonna write songs for people that see, because those are the majority of people.
No,
And they're
it's
gonna
how
relate
he
to what I'm
feels
saying.
it. It's how he feels it. It's how he feels it, which makes perfect sense.
It's wild. But yeah, no, I didn't know that the Golden Lady song.
Really?
No. I'm not as diehard as you are with Stevie. I just kind of know the hits. As much as I love and admire and fucking I'm crazy about him.
What's your favorite Stevie Wonder song?
Oh man, the one that goes, that song. I think I'm in the wrong key.
It doesn't matter, but there's another song. You are the apple of my eye.
Yeah, you are the sunshine of my life.
Yeah, and he says apple of my eye.
Oh, you started looking for more songs where he talks about
Well,
singing,
I wanted
right?
to see if anybody was talking about the fact that he...
It's interesting.
Oh my God, so there's a rumor that he's not blind. So
I've heard
stupid.
that. And I've
it
heard a
was like
really
a-
horrible joke.
That he possibly a prank that started... Whatever.
It's a horrible joke that says
horrible.
that
Just like Beyonce was never pregnant. So people are so stupid.
you want to hear this horrible Stevie Wonder joke? It's like
Not really.
One person says, "Why is it that Stevie Wonder goes like this when he dances?" It's to get out of the way from Ray Charles, who's going like this when he's playing. So they just kind of... It's ridiculous.
My eyes don't cry no more.
Another song.
He has a song called My Eyes Don't Cry.
That's different. Blind people cry too.
No, I know, but it's interesting. God, you know, like do a deep dive into his lyrics, and it's like brilliance.
Oh man.
What else?
Nah, I mean, I'm just thinking about just songwriting itself, right? Because like that's kind of the whole point of why we decided we wanted to do this. Like we wanted to talk about songwriting a little bit, and because songwriting is number one, songwriting is the reason Break Out the Crazy exists. Number two, songwriting is the only thing we have left after having gone through all the things that we have gone through and all the things that we continue to like learn and do. Is like our songwriting is all we have. Like, gosh, I don't know if I'm gonna continue to have the freaking energy to make social media content, like tons of stuff, or or if I'm gonna anything else, but I know for a fact that I want us to continue to write songs.
Right.
Like I want to hear what the next Break Out the Crazy song is gonna be.
That's the only. Well, that's the true, like you said, it's the true meaning, reason why we started, and it's the true fuel behind everything.
Exactly.
Even the social media, everything else is just literally fueled by that.
Right.
By that love. But by the time you get to social media, it's so far removed from the song.
Right.
It's like.
Right.
But if you have to be good at this to have people listen to this, then you're like, how do I bring the two together?
Yeah. I don't want to ever be like ungrateful, you know, because I know that the thing that is always said to people like us is like, oh man, you know, you at least now you have free marketing. Like now you can market yourself for free, and you can access so many people, so many new listeners. Like before you couldn't do that.
So
and it's
true.
Like, it's true, and I want to value that. I want to what's the word, like acknowledge, appreciate that exactly. But there's a weird thing that happens. It's almost like even this is a kind of meta to talk about. It's like having a camera and a microphone on. It kind of already very easily could affect your what's coming out.
Of course.
Because all of a sudden now it's like, oh, what I'm saying is what I'm saying because the thing is on, because somebody's hearing it. Rather than you and I here when nothing is on, just like vibing and coming up with whatever we're gonna come up with. You know what I mean? You're less shy. You're
even
less...
our controversial.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like there might be a little.
What might be deemed as controversial? Well, we'd have to temper that. We would, I think, on instinct, temper that or edit it out.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? But whatever. I guess there's always things that are a little bit too personal.
Well, I think that if you believe something strongly, then you're gonna back it up, no matter where you are, no matter what circumstances you're under.
I know, but
where you are.
But you can, when you throw thoughts around, that's not everybody understands what that is as opposed to believing in something.
I see what you mean. So you're talking about like in songwriting, it's more like throwing thoughts around.
No, I'm talking about life.
In life, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing about songwriting. I think the thing that people get wrong about songwriting is that, first of all, again, I've always said this, like not every singer is a songwriter. So if you understand that you're great at singing and then you don't think that you have to develop as a songwriter, then you're never going to be a good songwriter. There's a lot of people that it comes naturally to, but that doesn't mean that it will come naturally to you just because you have a good voice. That's the mistake that a lot of people make. And it's like, it's so funny because it's the same thing with the dancing. It's like, they're great dancers. Not all of them can choreograph. That shit is it's another world. And I have enormous respect for choreographers. I am not one, even though I have been forced to create things dance-wise. I would never in a million years be like, I'm a choreographer. And when people hear that, they're like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like, I'm not.
But that's a product.
I'm not. And I'm so okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't find that field, my creativity in that field. I love doing other people's stuff. And singers need to understand this about themselves. And then when they sit down and they try to write a song and it's so hard, it's like, yeah, well, it's telling a story. But if you literally just don't even understand that might be a craft you have to develop and learn how to do. Everybody does that with singing. They're like, oh, I need a coach, I need to learn how to do this. But nobody thinks about that when it's singing. It's like so bizarre.
Yeah. It's a product of our time, like of how, like I feel guilty for this, and I always tell you this, that I didn't go to school for music. You know, and I didn't take my father's advice when he told me at that one point in my youth.
Yeah, but that's not to say...
you should learn music. No, but
that's not to say that some songwriters don't need help developing songwriting. Some of them don't.
Yeah, but I don't think that the artist that you're talking about even thinks about it in that way. They're looking at their goal. Their personal goal is just to be either a star or to be a singer or to sing cool or to sing cool riffs.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sound dope, like that time that they heard that dope singer do the dope riff.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that I feel like I've come to at times to feel guilty for not
Exactly.
getting more educated about all things music, all things, because everything interconnects. Like
Yeah.
the choreographer is needed and is important, and the dancer is important.
Absolutely.
And all of this stuff is important, you know what I mean? But that was understood a long time ago when these things were first being come up with, and like there was like, you know, a conductor, and then there was the musician, and then you would come and get together and practice and play.
But I've seen dancers who have had no training go from dancer to choreographer, and they're phenomenal. So I don't necessarily think that, but that's not to say that everybody can do that. I think that there's absolutely some people that need the training and need to do that. And then I will say, add to that, Cheryl, for instance, with a ballet background, a very technical ballet background, has abilities as a choreographer that a non-schooled dancer will not have. Simply because they don't have that training. But they can be equally good. It's just different.
Yeah.
Cheryl has a different facility.
I mean, in the same breath that I tell you that I feel bad about these things, and then I feel that people need to be more educated and have more respect for what came before, I'll tell you that I wouldn't change. I wouldn't change my life.
Right,
like I'm
no.
a product of
But the respect is
following
there.
my heart and just doing whatever the heck I wanted and teaching myself. And everything I do, and I make a living off of
There's a
music
value
based
in
off
that.
of just
There's a huge value in
being,
that.
yeah, exactly. And there's a the way that I look at it, and it's weird because I'm talking about myself. It's like I have a gift. I've been given a gift,
Yeah.
and not everyone is gifted, and that's okay, you know. But I also don't just be like, I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm the same. Me and Bach, they're like, there's no difference, or me and whoever that. Like, no, I understand that there's an amount of discipline, an amount of education, an amount of everything, and there's a place for these things.
Right. That's exactly how I felt about ballet dancers and modern dancers. You know, for a long time I was reluctant even to say I was a dancer because I was like, how can I put myself next to these people who have this extraordinary ability? And I had to find a comfort in my limitations and knowing that had a place and that there were opportunities for that without seeing them as limitations, right? As seeing them as just like, well, this is what I have to offer, and these are the worlds that I could live in. And that being said, I would never go and audition for American ballet, you know, like, because I know that that's not my world.
Yeah.
And it's not the same with music. It's just like, it's not just genre specific, although you should know your wheelhouse, right? Just because you can do something, number one, it doesn't mean you should. And you should know what your tone is and what your natural abilities are and where that fits and what you would need to work on.
Yeah.
And then some people don't have any natural ability. They learn everything, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah.
There all has a place, but if you don't have the humility to know where you need to work, then you're going to constantly just wonder, like, why am I not?
But that's everything. That's
why is this not happening easily for me?
I've seen you put in your stories, right? Like, you put in your stories a few times. I've seen it where you're just like, look, I'm here. I write songs all the freaking time. I've written songs for other artists. I write songs for myself. If you're out there and you're struggling with writing songs, reach out. I'm here. Like, I can help. You know what I mean? But what's missing there is that awareness from the artists themselves to think, like, you know what? I should try to learn how to write a song. But, like, that awareness is missing. That just that simple little awareness, like you just said, like that, of where you fit into the equation. What is it that makes the thing? You know, people. That's why it was so cringy seeing Celine Dion in her documentary say what was it that she said? The song doesn't matter. It's the singer.
It's the performance.
It's the performance. And I'm just like, wow.
You were like,
that's weird. That's crazy to think that she made it this far thinking that, when it's like, where do you think the inspiration comes to even want to sing that like that? I mean, the song itself is there. The song is the thing that
you are
you're being
nothing
inspired to.
without the song. You literally just are, have a nice voice. It's unbelievable when she said that. Unbelievable that somebody given that many gifts because of the insanely
Right.
good songwriters
Right.
that she's has had access to, that have gifted her with these insane melodies and words.
And the funny
Like-
part is that if you talk to the producers that were involved in her records, right, and the songwriters and the engineers and the label people and all those people, each and every one of them will be proud to say that they work with that artist,
Yeah.
and they would almost say that they had a hand in the success of that artist. You know what I mean? Because it takes a village, like it takes a lot of work to make these hits. You know what I'm saying? And these art, like, what do you think? How much of it do you think is the voice of the singer that makes it become a hit?
Well, the fact that she has a name is more important than her voice.
I don't know, because her voice is what made the name famous.
I know, but I'm saying that. But then again, and so then you see, world. There you go. You just answered the question that you asked, because give her a bad song, and see how well it does. Give her a great song, and see how well it does.
Yeah.
If her bad songs still flop, guess what? It's the song.
Yeah.
Even though your gorgeous voice, supposedly, that makes the song,
Yeah.
that song is a failure
Yeah.
because it sucks.
Yeah.
And no
No,
matter
we
how
know.
much you dress it up,
Yeah.
a turd is a turd.
Yeah.
So, Stevie, sorry to always bring back Stevie, like, there is something that's intrinsically understood about that in Stevie Wonder and every great songwriter, that nothing ever takes precedence over the other. Everything has the equal amount of care paid to it. So once you write a song, the words are extremely important, but how the words sit in the melody, is the melody honoring the words? And do the words honor the melody?
Yep.
Does this feel ironic? Does
Yeah.
this feel happy? Does this feel like longing?
That's why.
And that's what Como Suena is, right? Like, what is it that the endless search for, as a songwriter, to put melody and words to a feeling. It's that. It's what words and what melody captures this.
Yeah.
And then the producer, which I think that their job should be, is how do I bring this to life? It's almost like there's the egg, this is the fertilizer, like, because
Yeah.
it's just a seed.
Yeah.
And it's the seed is life, right? But you need the soil to nourish it so that it
Exactly.
can grow
Exactly.
and blossom as a tree, and that's where the music comes in.
Exactly. But I want to go back to a point that you said that I think is super important, which is the melody being that, like, this thing about songs that I feel like has lost a bit of its importance, or a lot, is that thing that you just mentioned. A melody can take a word, and in a certain way that you sing it, in the moment that you sing it in the song, could really make that shine,
Absolutely.
really make it make sense. Like that is the lyric. Like that it couldn't have been said in any other melody, in any other way, because that it's perfect. You know what I mean? And that's the power that melodies have. We're in a time, and like it's been already, like I want to say, decades already, where the melody became like. Like it's just like one melody over and over and over and over again. And because we value rap so much and bars and whatever so much, it's like, okay, I heard what they said, so what they said is important. Meanwhile, the melody being this over and over again makes it cool because rap is cool, but it's like no, like you're
Well, there's a
leaving on the
time and-
table something
There's
that
a
could
time and a
that,
place for that, though.
for sure. I don't want to poop on the rap and stuff and the hip hop stuff, but I really do feel like it's bled so much more into pop music even than now.
Yeah.
Even pop music, pop songs, country songs, everyone's doing it because it's cool. But it's like you're literally leaving something on the table that you could absolutely use
Yeah.
to help show more and
I think
express more.
people are afraid of sophisticated music in pop. So I mean, when they measure it, they say everything has been simplified. Words have been simplified.
Who's to blame for that?
The words that they use are simplified. The music is simplified because now people are just afraid that they are creating a less accessibility, or just that they're going to scare people away and nobody wants to use their brain. But then there's a reason why, like, people still know who Stevie Wonder is, and people still seek out other things.
Yep.
Because that, I think it doesn't scratch the itch.
Yeah.
I mean, you said whose fault is it? I mean, it's like, I don't know about if I would talk about it in that way. It's just sort of things evolve the way they evolve because of whatever. And I told you this the other day, that I think that the emphasis on youth and catering things towards the youth, of course you're going to simplify it. They just don't have the capacity or the will to do things that are more complicated because their brains are not fully developed.
So you mean youth, like children?
No, I mean teenagers and young.
No, but I think teenagers are smart. I don't know if I agree.
I didn't say they're not smart. They're not fully developed. It's just what it is. It's science.
Okay. I'm just saying because think about the 60s and the 70s, like that the youth was listening to the popular music of the day, and the popular music of the day was way more rich in chords and changes and poetry.
Bob Dylan was the worst voice on the planet. But it was, back then it was, the importance was poetry. You know, Joni Mitchell, you know, Bob Dylan and these people were like master songwriters, and that took precedent over anything. Clearly, especially with Bob Dylan. So like they just wanted to hear words that were comforting or full of love and full of whatever they were full of, like a new kind of way of expressing those concepts.
Yeah, without outright just saying, you know, I love you, you are my love, and I want to love you forever, which was being done to death at that point. And they were just like, how about I just paint a picture right now with my song? And
that's really an interesting observation. I think you're absolutely right. Like there was a need for let's stop obsessing over only relationships and only love, and because if you think about the Joni Mitchell trains and planes and transcend, you know, it's philosophy. Mm-hmm. So now they're singing about, you know, and other cultures have done that for years, but I think like we've never really embraced that, singing about politics.
I was going to say
about philosophy.
Yeah. I was going to say
awakenings.
I really hate this obsession with the first time. This is the first time that this has been done. Like that's a freaking promotional tool, you know, that's marketing. That's just to make you think that something is super special, you know, and it's like, no, what happens is cycles. Things come back around. We get tired of talking about things in a certain way. We get tired of describing things a certain way. We get tired of this like focus. And so we need to shift the focus from time to time so that we could feel refreshed and connect with the purity of expression. And that's why from time to time, somebody comes along that does that, because they too got tired of saying things in the same over, or hearing people describe things in the same way over and over. So they like, I'm going to say this instead. And tons of people, just mass people go and gravitate towards it because it's like so, it energizes them. Like, this is fresh. This is new. It's a different way to say this.
I feel like I get a sense, I don't know if it's an accurate sense, but I get a sense when someone is motivated only by a melody and not matching it to the words, like not seeing that connection as being important. They just want to sing a pretty melody, and then the words are like secondary. Like, I feel that. I feel that almost immediately.
Yeah.
That, like, oh, you like the sound of your voice, and you've just managed to put words to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way that a lot of people write songs, right? They hum melodies.
Yeah.
And they put words. But where you're putting the words, what words you're putting is super important.
Super duper.
And to them, it's just like, well, no, this word fits here. It sings nicely, you know, whatever. And I'm not dissing, like, and saying that there's no way to like have formulas or anything, because I think that has a place, like, you know.
Yeah, but
technique, I guess. But the fact is that when it comes at the same time, That's where magic happens, I think.
Yeah, but the focus, that's like, but we're ignoring the elephant in the room, which is that the focus isn't even that. Like we're calling things songs now that aren't songs.
No,
we're
I know.
we're
But I'm
calling
saying,
vibes songs, which is all about vibes. And
I'm saying
people
like
are doing vibes.
the way you approach the
And that's mainstream music, right? Popular music. Because
but
if you
even
look
vibes,
at
that could be
kinda,
vibes. Like Sarge's full of vibe.
Okay, I could see that. You're right. You're right. But I think a song is a song. Like if you're wanting to write a song, then you're gonna the lyric you put in there is gonna matter. It's not just gonna be a lyric that sings well. It's gonna be a lyric that is giving meaning. That's why I always say, like, that is the reason why hip hop is the dominant popular music, because they are putting super amount of importance in lyric. For the most part, like, right, a lot of this, there's a lot of cheap
No, I think you're right.
rap music, a lot of cheap hip hop, but for the most part, it's all about lyric. It's all about what you're saying. It's all about the story that you want to tell.
That's why it can be over a loop, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
But one can also say the loop has to hit the same way the song is hitting. Because if you have the wrong loop,
Well, it's what we always talk about. People think making pop music is easy,
Right.
but it's not.
It's the hardest.
It's finding the right loop that loops around forever.
Right.
It doesn't feel tiring and actually feels good, and you want it to loop around. It's actually an acquired, like a what do you call that? Like a skill that you gotta you can work on and learn how to do. And the best, I would say that what makes me a professional is my ability to edit myself and to edit myself better. And that's I think what I'm most proud of, that I could do better now than I used to be able to do back in the day. It used to take me longer to get to the edit, to get to the kind of more distilled version of what it is that I'm gonna.
yeah, but I think that that's actually secondary. I think that what makes you a professional is your ability to hear not just accurately, but with such immediacy. Like, out of the billions of ideas that can come, when I hear what you do, the second someone gives you an inspiration, it's insane how fast you get to it. Like, it's bananas. Like, watching you with Ellie Jazz Saturday, for instance, you were like, what's the song? Da-da-da. I was like, oh, okay, we're done. That's the music. Now let's just write. Like, it was immediately right. The same thing with the One Up Duo. Every time we've sat down, it's immediate, and it's so fast, and it's so perfect. And you see everybody's face just lights up. You're like, oh, you got it. You got it. Well, I think that's what makes you professional. And I've heard from many people a frustration in trying to find coworkers is the lack of that.
Interesting.
A lack of an understanding of that, because they're like, oh, that's kind of not what I meant, or that's not the music I was thinking about, or it just doesn't connect for them with other people.
Yeah.
And they've said it time and time again, because they think that producers are all coming from the same place.
Yeah.
But the fact is that you sit down with a beat maker, and they're not going to know what the hell. They're going to have to really work harder, because they don't have that bank of ideas, or they don't have that, understanding of melody intrinsically stored already here.
Yeah.
And have all these opportunities, but not just that, but out of all these opportunities, just to go straight for it.
Yeah, we've come to a place. We've come to a place where that's a lot of young people are cutting into music production and beat making and stuff, and the way that they think about it is a beat is a track that an artist jumps on. Like that's
right.
it. It's this weird, like, two separate things that come together, and that's it. And this thing is just a one thing, and that's it. Like it gets to the point to like where mix engineers and stuff, like, they're getting two tracks, which is a beat and then the vocals, because like that's the way people are thinking about it. That's how they're treating it.
Yeah, but I will say that what's obvious to me is that as poppin' as a song might be, what guarantees longevity is not that. Is literally just not doing it like that.
Interesting.
I don't know any song that has lasted for years and years and years that was made like that.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
just
I think
it
I think
doesn't-
I agree with you that, and that's like a bold claim, right? Because like we don't know how the heck each and every hit is made, but like when you look at the few hits that we know how they were made, you could see that there's this process of writing a song, sitting with an artist, vibing with an artist, understanding what they're thinking, what they're going through. The production stage is like sitting in a studio,
Well, I don't
picking the
know
right
if it's
sound and all
it's
this
not
kind of stuff.
necessarily that. It's not necessarily like this long, drawn out, like hard
Well,
work.
I'm not saying it's long,
there's
but it's
something.
a process.
I'm just saying it's not top liners. It's not somebody unless you're Sia.
Sia's the only one that you give a
No,
pass
well, I'm
to?
saying because I'm saying because she's a good top liner because she's a good songwriter. It's almost just like she has the ability to do both, and there's the respect and there's an understanding to the lyrics and the melody thing. I just think that has to be first, and then you can make songs that have the longevity that I'm talking about. But I feel like when things are just sort of like thrown together, I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not down on top lining. I'm not. I think that can produce a great song.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But you still have to have a great songwriter that doesn't just top line
Interesting.
or that has this skill,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And
I think a good songwriter can help a producer become a better producer.
yeah.
Totally, because of what you're saying, because you could help the producer
Or make it easier.
give you that bare essentials that you've made me a better producer. I mean, you really have. You've the amount of times that you're just like, yo, let's just sit on the piano. Come on, let's just sit on the piano. Come on, and it's like I'm forced now to make that work, with what you're coming up with, and it's crazy. Like going back to Saturday when we were writing with Ellie, like it's almost fascinating every time we write, and how do I say this? Like I'm pretty amazed by how these things come together.
Yeah. Me too.
Because there are kind of three things happening at the same time in
Right.
each one of our heads, and the way that we're able to kind of connect and put these things together and be like, what I'm doing connects to what you're doing in this way. And like, there's those little weird moments where you're like, oh, I was writing this over that other thing you were playing, and the other person over there is like, oh, really? I thought, well, he was, and then, but then like we sync up again, and then, you end up with this thing that's like super dope, and I never would have come up with by myself. Those are the
neither,
things that
yeah.
I feel make the good songs. I personally feel, not you have a beat and you mumbled the best, most catchy thing that you mumbled and then you wrote with. Not to say that you can't come up with a good song like that, but it's not the same thing.
No.
Like we're not doing the same thing when we're doing that. Like I always talk about John Mayer, but there's tons of people like that have a guitar in their hand when they're writing a song, and it's like, there's something magical about that, about like you're doing the thing and you're coming up with the thing at the same time, and there's rhythm involved, there's chord progressions involved.
But I
there's
think that it's
feeling.
also the understanding of one should feed the other.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can easily sit down and become so self-indulgent that you just get carried away with your own voice. You write a 10-minute song of you just sort of like singing over and over again these melodies that are absolutely pretty. But now you don't have a song anymore. You have you're like masturbating session on video or on recorded. And it's
Yeah.
just like, it gets boring.
Yeah.
You're only really pleasing yourself, and there's something so missing from that, and it's respect for the song.
But that's interesting to me, that concept, what you're saying. You're totally right. But that brings up something else for me, which is there isn't a great song that is not an honest, genuine expression from this person that's writing it or from the people writing it.
Yeah.
So there is balance, like in everything in life,
Balance.
right?
It's all
Because like what
balance.
you said, like you're talking about this extreme that's kind of this ugly kind of self-indulgent, self-aggrandizing, like you said, masturbatory kind of thing. But then there is the good side of that coin, which is like expression, genuine expression. And something that reads as genuine, and that's what I strive for. Like whenever I see my most favorite songs that I love to hear, it sounds like, yo, that sounds so effortless. he sounds so much like he's like genuinely really saying that, like he's not just.
I just realized something in hearing you talking. We sing as we talk. We give importance to words. Our volume raises and falls. Our sentences end with a period and they go down.
Yeah.
That's what your words have to do.
Yeah.
That's what your melody has to do.
Word.
So the great understanding of that, be like, how does this cadence communicate? We do it in if we only talk like this, then we would be robots, because nobody talks like this and you wouldn't really understand what I'm saying, because
so right.
I have no inflection in my voice and there is no way to tell my emotion.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
we add these melodies to our words.
Yeah.
Words
That's why
all the time. And that is us singing. And
Yeah.
all you have to do is understand
Yeah.
how important that is when you're singing the words.
Yeah.
And they're intricately connected.
And let's bring it back to hip hop. I mean, there was no contest between Kendrick and Drake. Like you hear the Drake song and it's literally like like just like the drony thing, and you listen to Kendrick and it's like it's like all this dynamic range that's insane. Different voices, different characters. Sometimes he's singing, sometimes he's rapping, sometimes it's like sometimes he's belting, sometimes he's whispering. And that's like you're saying, that's real life communication. That's what we do. There's a
The
point
robot lost.
The robot lost, and even to the point where he even used robots, like in one of the songs, like he used like AI and stuff like to make.
Well, they say that. Who knows if that's true?
No. One of them, he brought an AI Tupac and an AI somebody else. I forgot to be in the like.
Well, anyway, point is that I just had that realization as you were talking.
You're so right.
That's
dude.
why we have melody. We have melody so that we can accentuate what we need to accentuate as we're singing our song. And as soon as you start to disconnect that, then you're just like, okay, well, then you're losing some of the authenticity. And sometimes it's a play on that because you need it to be a play on that.
Yeah.
You need it's like John Mayer's song, like, why you no love me, why you no love me, or whatever this melody is. He's so playful with it. Because it's a childish way of speaking.
Right.
And when he tells the story, it makes perfect sense why he wrote it like that.
What was the story behind that song?
That it was some reference to a childhood thing that he used to say, or that his sister, I don't know, he said something about it.
So it's literally like a child. It's coming from like a child.
Yeah, it's like a playful, weird, like, why you don't love me? Like, I don't know. He said something like that, and he's like, and I just thought it would be... But then everything around the song then honors that about it. And he's like, I know it's childish. I know it's a silly way of saying it. Like nobody speaks like that. No adult speaks, right? But anyway, so embracing that aspect of it, just like in the Cloud song, the Joni Mitchell song, like, the importance of repeating this phrase over and over again. And where she repeats, and how the cadence of the melody repeats. I've looked at clouds from both sides now. She's crying. It's a cry, and it's like perfectly captured. Dun, 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 and still somehow, the repeating of the looking at the clouds is repeated in the melody. Da 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 da. That's the ironic line. It's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Because there's a conclusion. And so it changes right when the mind changes.
Right.
It's fun. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's brilliant and it works. But if you separate yourself so much from the words and the melody and you're only worried about how does my voice sound here, like you're gonna lose where the words should go, or the importance of the words.
But that's why that brings us all the way around again. But that's the whole point, right? Songwriting used to mean that you wrote into the thing, you baked into it those emotions.
And I will say
and that's why
something
you
else.
picked the melody with the word
I will say something
the way
else.
that you did.
Agonizando. I've always said this.
Yeah.
The second I heard the
By
song.
Pavel Núñez.
I didn't know Spanish. I don't know Spanish well enough to know what he was saying.
Yeah.
But that song made me cry immediately with the melody.
Yeah.
Because he is saying what he's saying with the melody, and that transcends language.
Word.
It has the agony
Of course
in
it
the
will.
melody
Yeah.
because it was so genuinely conceived.
Yeah, I mean that was classical music. The opera was that, like you could listen to the opera and you know if it's a happy or a
So
sad thing happening because
And if
just
you
gotta listen to
understand,
it.
yeah, and if you merely just understanding that, you're halfway there. You don't even have to know how to put it into practice as long as you understand that.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why I've never heard a song that Celine Dion has written.
But again, that's
Maybe
really
she hasn't
crazy
tried.
to me that she would say that when the truth is that like I don't know, like you're singing, you are singing the song. The song isn't singing you. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you
and
are
that's
singing
not
the
to
song.
say
That means
that somebody can't hear you sing 3 notes and say you have a beautiful voice.
yeah, or people prefer a song version by a person, right? They
Right.
do that. What was it the other day? You were somebody was like, I like this version of the song, and you're like, oh my god, you like the original is the best one, and that's the one you
Oh,
you
the
felt
Norah
like it was a
Jones,
definitive
yeah.
thing. But that can happen, with people. But in my opinion, that's still a testament to the song, because if the song can do that, if
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
of course.
exist, and then one person loves it by so and so, and the other one loves it by so and so,
Well, that
what's the common
becomes-
denominator? The song.
Right. And that just becomes, I think, a matter of taste. Like, oh, I like to hear people riffing and using their voice in these really acrobatic ways.
Yeah.
That's a taste thing.
Yeah.
I don't happen to like that. And if you are going to do that, I would much rather it be inspired, and I can tell the difference personally. But that's not even to say that there's a right or wrong way to hear music. It's just the way I hear music. It's the way I like music, and I'm paying attention to certain things.
Yeah.
But I guess my point was before is I'm paying attention to certain things, but I can ingest a feeling from a well-written song, even if I don't speak the language. Shouldn't that be everybody's goal? I feel like the goal is to adequately invent a way to package a thought and a feeling that emits that feeling, even if you can't understand the language. And yet it's super important what you're saying, because it's baked into the melody, and one is not the same without the other. It's just not.
Yeah.
And you can hum all day, and there's a beautiful melody, and it's hummed, but if there's no words to it, it has a whole other life.
Yeah.
That's very much up to perception and conception and conception. Is that a word? No, it's up to perception and imagination.
Yeah.
But when you're telling a story and you really need to tell that story, it's absolutely important. This sounds sad because I am sad, and this song, needs to capture that.
I think what I thought about just now as I'm hearing you say that is the concept of repetition in music, in songs.
Ooh.
And you and I, we've talked about this in the past, how we actually haven't gravitated towards repeating one line over and over again in our songs a lot. And it's something that when we hear other people do it well, we love it.
We love
We're
it.
Wow, it's so dope that they can do that. And then I think about how all of music, popular music, has become very repetitive, and it's become very formulaic, and in my opinion, a little bit tiring already, too much repetition. But what that's doing, it is increasing the probability that something will actually connect in a way, because repetition does that, right? A repetition in poetry and in writing and all that stuff. And
when it's done well,
it's an amazing tool, an amazing accentuating, emphasizing tool that helps you to
I agree.
really, block out and emphasize something. And
When it's done well.
when it's done well, and And yeah, like you and I, like we're always saying, like, you know what? Next thing we do, like, we're gonna try.
Oh, we're
trying our
gonna
best
do it. We're gonna do
to
it.
come up with a line that's just like keeps going on and on. It just repeats over and over again, and just like
In a good way.
it's meaningful. Like it has a real purpose in the song, and that's the thing. Like I don't want people to hear us talking like this and think that we're like these weird purists and that we don't think that simple songwriting, repetitive songwriting is bad. Like,
Or
no,
we
that-
think that
it's
we've even reached the great to be the
Or
great
that we know it all,
songwriters.
right.
I'm not. And
No,
and
no.
I if you know when I do, hopefully I will still feel as humble as I do now. Like when I get better,
I think-
because like I just feel like there's so much more to grow.
Can I try to maybe describe your point of view from the way I perceive it, and you tell me if I'm wrong? I feel like what you notice, you're noticing that there's tons of artists out there. Oh, time out.
It's Amazon.
I was trying to describe my understanding of your point of view,
Okay.
which is that you're seeing how young artists or up and coming artists are kind of getting stuck in being an artist so much and in their singing and things like that. And the songwriting is falling to a secondary kind of place. Not all, but a lot of them. Surprisingly, a lot of them, or not so surprisingly. When you hear the music, it sounds like the effort wasn't put into making the song be a solid thing.
Yeah.
And you believe that if only they were to do that, their artistry would shine. Everything else would
Yeah.
shine as a result.
I think so.
And I freaking agree so much, because it's the same thing with me with production. Like, I'm not, being a producer nowadays is a whole thing, like, if you're really grinding as a producer, you know what you're doing? You're constantly making beats, and you're constantly making instrumentals, and you're
Right.
making sample packs, and you're selling things, and you're talking about, and you're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, okay, technically I probably could be doing that, but the real inspiration for my production comes from the songs,
Right.
But
you know what though? And I'll tell you this something else that makes it even crazier is that there's so many people that can't do that people don't even expect it anymore.
yeah,
That's the thing about it.
the whole thing has
Nobody's
changed.
offering that because they can't do it. And they don't want you to come with a song that then they have to compose to, because the fact is that they have no idea how to compose anything.
Well, all the incentives have brought us to this point. Everything is incentivized in that way. So,
Well, everything, I think it's not necessarily incentivized, but it's been like the things that have been made easier have now just been the thing that people are just become like, okay, well, actually, I don't need this. Just because something is easier. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I still call it incentives just because I agree with you. There are good artists writing good songs right now in 2024. A ton of them, a
Right.
bunch of them. They're out there, and a lot of them may not be the most successful artists in the world, but there's a
probably
bunch that
getting
are
buried in the just sheer.
probably, but there's some that are actually succeeding and doing
Yeah.
well, and they're
Yeah.
making good songs. And it's because they haven't attached that success to making a certain kind of music. If you tell yourself that what you have to be doing in order to succeed is making super generic music and putting it out every 2 weeks or every week, then you're gonna do that, and you're gonna
Right.
go in that direction, and that's what and then you're gonna go around, saying to people that's why you had success. When we don't know that, if there's artists that can exist at the same time doing it well, making actually good songs and not putting out so many songs, maybe putting out less songs, maybe just putting out good quality stuff, every month or every 2 months, then or every year, whatever, then that shows to you that yes, that it could be done.
Yeah.
That it's not necessarily that's making it be successful. And I think that the more we have of that, that's when things are going to start changing again to
I don't know
to the
about
mainstream
more
being
like having more of anything. I just think that what's going to happen is what's happening already is that like all of these fads are being seen as what's successful, but the fact is that every fad fades because that's why it's called a fad.
Yeah. I also hate that people are being told this is the reason why this worked. Like it's because they did this and they did that. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, they were
but they're
paying
trying
a
to
bunch
make-
of money to get on.
But they're trying to make content. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's just what the game is. It's like you figure out how you can capitalize on someone else's success or even your own success. And meanwhile, that could have nothing to do with it. You could just be like an amazing songwriter. And you just had the luck of marketing in a way that somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you're even, sometimes I think people are even selling themselves short.
Yeah.
For the fact that it's that, like, at the end of the day, if you didn't have a good song, nothing that you did would have worked. You have a great song, you have a great voice, you have a great delivery, you had an honest delivery, or whatever it was.
Yeah. And I don't want people to think that I'm against simple music. Like I have to reiterate, because I know that people are like, oh, what do you think? You know, there are good simple songs. There are good popular songs that are very
simple
like
songs.
brilliant simple songs. Brilliant. How do you say, like in DR? You know, they like música porquería, like crappy music, whatever. But it's there's good music that is appealing to this very base kind of human thing in the masses, that is really brilliant, like you're saying, really smart in the way that it does it, and honest, and that's a good song too. You know what I mean? It's when I can hear the gears turning. You know, like that thing that we're always talking about. Like, I can see the gears turning. I can see you thinking. I can see you trying to make something catchy. I can see you trying to make something commercial. You know, or in the case that you were talking about earlier, I can see you just so in love with the sound of your own voice, or with, you know, or with
Such a
riffs,
turn
or the
off.
concept of riffing.
But there are people that do like it, so I can't,
Well, there's an audience for that.
I can't just say that it's like objectively bad. It's not. It's just a taste thing. But I do feel like there's a time and a place for everything. There's a time and a place for a Celine Dion. Like, you know, she's hugely loved and hugely successful because her particular mode of delivery and performance is electrifying. She has an exceptional skill. But no one's going to go home and just be like, she's a great songwriter. It's just the fact. They love her voice and they love her delivery and her thing, and it's just a fact. She's not a songwriter. She's a deliverer.
And the other thing is that the name of the game nowadays is that thing that we were just talking about. Like the fact that it's really not that much about make good music. It's about make something that someone out there, a group of people out there, are into. I feel like you and I have struggled with that as artists, and like literally like thinking about that when in the past we didn't really think about it. We just made what we wanted to make, and we busted our butts to make it good quality and presentable.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know, nowadays to succeed, you know, or to have numbers, you actually have to get good at finding an audience that will be into the kind of thing that you're making.
Finding your audience, period.
And that's it.
How do you enable
so
them?
it's not necessarily about
How do you enable them to find you?
Exactly. Are you asking me, or are you saying it?
Yes, I'm asking you.
How do you enable them to find you?
Yeah.
Well, you got to find out what they like and what they're into and what is it that makes them like it, and you start doing that.
But
And kind of existing in that community
No,
and in
you
that
just
work.
reversed engineered it.
So okay. So
How
what
do
are
you
trying to say?
find the audience that likes what you're making?
Well, so you're saying if you just are making what you want, and then you just find an audience for that. I don't know. I guess you got to get out there and put the stuff out there, and those people will emerge.
Do they, with the
It's-
amount of noise coming at them? You know, it's like, it's almost like, how do you find your audience?
Well, but that's why the problem of what I feel is the problem of music today. This is going to get into this whole other thing, but I feel like the problem is today is that the artists themselves are doing what you just said. They're classifying themselves
Yeah.
according to those niches that are out there, right? And they're saying, I can align with that niche that already exists, instead of
it's not-
creating a thing from
But
scratch.
it's not always effortless. Sometimes that's just the kind of stuff that they already were going to make. Why it's not always manipulated. That's what they're inspired by, so that's what they make. I'm not saying everybody does that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that's often the case. Like that need to assimilate, that need to connect. But I think it's authentic. I mean, and I think you can hear it when it's authentic.
Yeah.
You can hear when jazz musicians try to make a pop song. It's hilarious. It's horrible.
Yeah.
One thing I thought was really exceptional was Mike League when Mike decided to write a song and sing it, I was blown away by this. There's a distinct understanding of the words and the melody. I don't know if he had a co-writer or whoever, or whatever, but it was just like, it was one of the first times that I've ever heard a musician, like a very musician-y musician, write something that I found so compelling. But I think that
you feel like that's uncommon.
I do think it's uncommon, but but if you look at Madison Cunningham, there are those that do that, but they have a unique understanding of what it is, like the respect for the song and how important the lyrics are. So instead of just worrying about how many notes they're playing and, again, falling into that trap of putting things of more importance over the song.
I mean, but there you go. That's why I think the conversation always goes from what is right and what is a good song and all that stuff to also like, but you have to understand what you're into and what you're going for. Yeah. Because there is a whole world of jazz musicians, a whole world of jazz fusion and
what
all
you're
that.
Going for. I wouldn't say that.
Well, no, because I feel like I don't know. Like I feel like
that is a
complete
thing. Like, different. But like all these people trying to write pop songs, they know what they're going for and they're missing it. That's not the secret to a good thing. It's like literally not thinking about what you're going for, but respecting what you're doing.
But I wouldn't put someone down for being a jazz fusion or whatever the heck music head.
I'm not putting them down. I'm saying that when they sit down, but if they sit down and try to write a pop song because they think it's super easy and stupid, then they're going to write a shitty pop song.
Right. And I think that's the problem. And I think that someone like that is making the mistake of thinking that it's all the same thing. And the audiences are none the wiser. The audiences are also kind of just like, oh, it's music. Oh, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like once the audience gets kind of a little bit, if the audience could see through that kind of stuff and be more selective, then it would be different. But I feel like a lot of time the audience doesn't know either, and so everyone's kind of just like winging this stuff like that. You know what I mean? When in reality, there's a history there of writers who have been really caring for that, really caring to capture very delicately, very exactly a feeling, an emotion, thing. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that I agree with your point, right? Where you were talking about how there's these kind of jazzy musicians that will want to write a pop song and they'll fail miserably because of their lack of understanding of what a pop song actually is. Yeah. Because what they're thinking is that is just an easy thing that anyone can do. And God even knows why they're doing it. I don't know why they're doing it, but I can understand what you're saying with that, right? But that person being what they are, as in essence, a musician that loves just sitting and playing their instrument and going anywhere they want to go as a musician, there's nothing wrong with that, is what I'm saying. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yeah, but exists there.
Nobody said there was anything wrong with it. It's when they try to, it's almost like me trying to do jazz and just playing a bunch of notes and be like, this is what you sound like, right? This is it. This is you, right? Because you just sound like this. It's just like my lack of understanding, like I'm just not respecting you. Yeah. Then I'm just literally like, dude, no, you sound ridiculous. Yeah. But that's how we feel when you try to write pop songs. Yeah. But I'm saying when there's brilliant musicians who do enter into an arena that I think in a way requires them to simplify themselves and requires them to let go of technique. It's the same thing with a ballerina who starts to do hip hop. I think that the best hip hop dancers are ballet trained, the best. And I could say that because of Adrian and Anthony. Adrian especially was a ballet dancer. And
he's the one that went to LaGuardia, right?
Yes. And he was a phenomenal ballet dancer, but he wasn't able to continue his career as a ballerino. And so...
What's the name of that? What's the name of the...
I don't know, ballet dancer.
Okay.
But so he decided to do hip hop, and he was absolutely phenomenal. But that required him to let go of so much of his technique. I mean, ballet is this, hip hop is this, it's completely the opposite. And yet that technique still helped him. But there's a definite place where you don't know how much of it to lose, and you don't lose enough of it, so you never look like a hip hop dancer. That's the same thing I'm talking about. So where in your technique of as a musician are you going to let go? How much of it are you going to let go to get to this very palpable music that you're trying to make now? Where you're trying to reach a lot more people, and they like it a little bit simpler. They definitely like the words to make sense. They're looking for certain things.
Yeah.
And for you to step into that arena and understand it so well, your technique only helps you because you've let go of the part of it that you don't need in order to make this pop music.
It's like the saying, I totally understand what you're saying. I agree completely. It's like that saying, in order to break the rules, you have to know the rules first.
Exactly.
And I think that's what happened. That this is happening more and more now as a result of how disconnected we've come from the first couple of people that did really innovate and change things. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the closer we were to like the 60s and the 70s or whatever the heck it was, that when music really like, you know, exploded and started changing and being different in many ways from my point of view, right? Because I know that people will put these points in history in different moments, but as an example, let's say, right, the further you get away from those decades, the more you're getting people that are, their introduction to music is already subgenres, is already a deconstruction of music, and that's their introduction to music. And same thing can happen with dance. Your introduction to dance could be into a deconstructed version of it. And so you're not able to go look at what the rules are, then break them yourself and have that perfect understanding, so that then what you do has that je ne sais quoi, that thing, you know what that is? That's knowing the rules and breaking them. Because that's what being clever is, right? It's knowing what you're parodying, what your satire is satirizing. You can't just jump right into the satire. It won't make any sense to you. You got to know what they're making fun of. And the same thing I think happens with music. And we're already at a point, like I'm saying, it's like you're getting musicians now that are being thrown into just fusion and jazz, and that's all they know. And that's all and all they want is that, and then they want to go jump off of that. Oh, our camera went. It sucks, but you know what I mean, right?
I thought that's fascinating to think about, though, because within that there is a new genre, in a sense, that comes from that.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's removed from technique and from the way that we've considered things should be understood, but I think that there's an argument to be made that I am not making. There's an argument to be made that that's just the way things are going to go now, and things are going to change, and what we once thought learning is going to be different.
Yeah, I think the potential for great things to emerge is always there.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think it's great. I again, I always say, like, I'm a product of that. I came into things the way I came into them. I started learning technology first and sequencers and all this kind of stuff, and that's how I got into music. And this is how I got here. And a lot of the ideas that come up with, I love the story you told me of Vital, that when he told you, like, did you study music? And you said no. And he was like, good, don't learn anything. Don't go and learn an instrument now.
He didn't ask me if I studied music.
All right, well, don't go learn anything.
I said I was going to learn piano. I should learn piano. And he was like, no,
worse.
Don't. Please don't. He was emphatic about it. I was like, wow, I would have thought of all people, this exquisite musician would be like, yeah, you should learn some music, honey. Get with it. And he said no. But the same thing with the Stuart Matthewman story, where, Sade was singing something in the studio and someone corrected her. He's like, oh, no, actually, it's this note. And he was like, shut up. Do you not hear that was brilliant?
Right.
But that ability to recognize that's where the magic is. And as schooled as a musician you are, your ability to recognize the magic in that wrong note is what enables you to, I think, open the door to beautiful things.
Yeah.
Because there is beauty in the not right.
Yeah, there's a balance.
Imperfection, in the, what might be conceived as being, wrong in some ways.
Yeah, well, in the case of music, it's ear. It's like how much ear you're allowing into the equation. How much the ear is the driving thing. Like I hear the stories of Sergio
I'm
George.
gonna do that thing with the lady with the.
Oh, you the Maxine Waters thing. Like,
That's exactly how I feel. Oh, sorry, go ahead. You were saying.
but that's why I don't like having this up here because I don't want us to be looking at this all the time.
No, I
It's gonna-
didn't. But I
it's
just
gonna drive
happened
us
to
crazy.
glance and notice that my hair looks crazy. Go ahead.
Oh, they're talking about Sergio. No, that Sergio, for some time now, is known for calling, like especially with the Mark Anthony sessions that he does, the salsa songs. He'll bring in the musicians and throw them in the booth, and be like, "Okay, go," like, "Okay, no, go boo boo bop boo boo bop," and the guy goes boo boo bop boo boo bop, and they hear it like, "No, we don't like boo boo bop boo boo bop. Let's go boo beep boo beep boo beep," and then they go boo,
Yeah,
and
playing.
the whole thing is recorded and arranged in that way. No charts, and he got so much shit for that. You know what I mean?
Jerry
So
Wonder's like that too, though. Like,
Really?
the amount of feeling that he allows to enter into the room and to enter into himself
Yeah.
when he's finding things, it's not long. It's not a long process. He's like, and he's dancing the whole time, and he's trying to capture. Like you could see him put, like, I swear to you, it's like if you were to make a movie about it, it would be him putting out these like antennas and satellite dishes, like, okay, give it to me. And then it goes through his body with his brain, what he knows about music, and then it's like magical. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All of these weeks of sitting here are worth it just to see this moment.
Yeah.
That's greatness.
It can be great. It can be bad too.
I agree. Absolutely.
That's why I
agree.
don't like when people are like, "Nah, this is the way." No.
No.
I've seen the arrangers that sit at home with a piece of pencil and
Yes.
paper and then arrange a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? That's
You have to know what that's why, when people talk about like, oh, you should do the songwriting thing like in a group, and I'm like, no way. No way, because first of all, that means that I would have to go through every style of songwriting, and then you'd have to figure out which one is right for you. That's a waste of time for me.
really.
Yes, because if I meet a person, I'll know what kind of, like, how they have to be songwriting, and we could just focus on that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, not waste a lot of time. It's like songwriting is an extraordinarily personal thing. It could be you just have to learn how to trust yourself. In which case, you don't need any of the other shit. You don't need
What you're talking about is, because I don't know if people know what you're talking about, which is basically that you're saying people have told you, why don't you give like a group songwriting lessons in a way to a
Right.
group
Which
of
is,
people.
I mean, I know that business-wise, it's much smarter to do it like that and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But I'm stuck on the fact that I just don't think it's the best and most efficient way for me to teach in the way that
what
I
you have
to offer.
Yeah, what you have to offer. I get it.
Maybe other people are proficient in that and can do the group thing, and then like that, they're really good at that. And I think that's that's pretty much how it's taught now.
Yeah.
Right. You have a vocal coach, and then you go to classes, songwriting classes or whatever. But I'm thinking, because the fact that I think that it's going to be so personal. It's like I could have one session with one person and then they never need me anymore, which would be great, right? Or you might need 5 sessions, or you might need 10. But like, to not have the pressure of like, okay, now you have to sit here through 5 things. I just don't think that one size fits all for that.
But I think what my and I agree and I understand where you're coming from, but there is such a thing as like a zoom out kind of general explanation of things that apply to everything. But then that won't scratch the certain itches that you want to scratch.
Yeah,
you want to get to certain things.
I want to get to the nitty gritty.
But I see a parallel with music production and mixing and stuff like that. Like I'm subscribed to these things that they mixing engineers literally walk you through their process and what they do.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think to myself, damn, like there's none of these guys are here showing you how to do a merengue or a salsa or a bachata or anything like that, because they're just working hip hop and rock music and all this kind of other stuff. And it's up to me who's watching it to take what I what I can from that and apply it in the ways that I need to apply.
And can you even like in a lot of ways?
Well, not everybody.
There's going to be something very specific for what you're doing that you're missing out on.
Yeah,
possibly.
but that's why I'm always criticizing. I'm always criticizing the people on top and then the people on the bottom. Like I feel like audiences are dumbed down nowadays. I feel like students are dumbed down as well. Like you need to be able to be a thinker yourself. Like that's the whole point of this stuff. Like you got to be able to go into things and be able to abstract things a little bit yourself from your mind. And I feel like not everybody's equipped to do that.
Yeah, but you know what's ironic, what you just said, is that you learn that in school. What you're learning in school is not always what you're learning. It's learning abstract thought. It's learning how to take, and that's the whole point. My senior thesis was from college was on the death penalty. Throughout the entire class, my professor showed, this is what it is to be pro-death penalty. This is what it is to be against the death penalty. He showed zero leaning towards either one. And I will say that after each one, I was convinced that that was the right way. I was convinced that the death penalty was a good thing. And then I was shown the death penalty was a bad thing. And I was convinced of that too. I was fully convinced that he had created such a great argument for both sides. But that's the key. You have to choose one and write a paper about it. And I was like, but I'm not decided because you confused me. You sold me on both. That is what school is for.
Yeah.
I would say the most significant classes were that senior class and my speech class, which I took as kind of like almost like a gym class. I was just like, oh, whatever, speech, who cares? I'm never going to give speeches. This is so stupid. But it wasn't about speech. It was about learning how to articulate yourself in a way that someone else can understand you, not stuttering, speaking slowly enough so that you're articulating your ideas as you're speaking. Like Coleman is like a master. You see the master communicators and even, some of the most brilliant minds. It's literally they're able to communicate in a way that you understand them. There is a brilliance just in that. And it's almost like the songwriting. Understanding the connection between lyric and melody. Right. There's a brilliance for those people that have mastered that. And if you look at their songs, it's just like, oh my God, you're a master. You're just a master at that. And that's what we should all strive for. I think in the communicating arena with each other, whether it be for work or for your relationships or whatever, we should strive to not just get our point out, but to express ourselves in a way that we're being received. And you have to be able to pivot when you're doing that. If you see the other person's not understanding you. Like I would have loved to hear in that clip the other day of Ben Shapiro talking to that guy, and the guy's like, I have no idea what you just said. I don't know what happened after that. I hope that Ben got another chance at expressing himself. Maybe in a slower way. I don't know, like whatever the person needs, like not to I'm not insulting this guy's intelligence. Yeah. But if you just don't think in those terms, it's going to go over your head. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to me, that in that example, like when he said that, I was like, oh, he doesn't want to understand. Like when he said that, he doesn't want to understand. So of course he's going to say that.
But you're assuming that.
God, but everything that was said was so super clear and for him to be like, I don't even know what he just said. It was like, okay.
To us.
But I compare that to the whole like being born into a specialization, being born into an abstraction, being, your introduction to something like music or art or even politics, being this complete like
self-contained
little bubble that only really exists now, because if you go back to the roots, it looked completely different. The motivations for people saying the things they were saying were completely different.
You're really reading a script, it just sounds like people are reading off of a script.
Yeah, but people are aligning with something, and think about it, that's the same thing that happens with art, right? You just go like, I'm into this kind of music, and so now you judge every other kind of music based on that. I mean, you had people that were literally, again, going back to the Drake Kendrick thing, that were on Drake's side, that were trying to make a case for Drake and going out there openly saying things like, yeah, you know, but this one was better by Drake, and Drake it's like,
But those were
how
already.
could there even be a thing? Right, because they made up their minds in their head that this is
Those were already Drake fans.
exactly what I mean.
I don't think that he turned anyone into a Drake fan that was a Kendrick fan.
I agree.
There was no turnover that way.
Imagine.
There might have been turnover the other way, or there might have just been whatever. But I will say that people who had no interest in the argument at all, once they heard the Kendrick, they were Kendrick fans. Absolutely, 100%. That's, I think, mostly what happened.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those people. So I can say that at least one person, someone who had little to no interest in this genre anymore. I like Kendrick a lot. I think he had a lot of talent. And I also liked the Just Hold On Coming Home by Drake. So I was sort of in the middle about that, but kind of like open to whatever.
Yeah.
And was floored by Kendrick, like just undeniably.
Even
talented.
Kendrick said that he likes Drake with the melodies. I like Drake with the melodies, like he said in the song. I agree.
Yeah, but
I think those are.
that's the only
those
song
cool
I
little
like.
Catchy little tunes that he's made that I think are cool.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure like he has a fan base. Again, music is that, you know, if you've touched people, if you've connected with people, you know, then you know, you've done well.
You know what happens with this stuff, with these kind of conversations, like I feel like, especially us being in this business of music, where like we attach like common concepts like something making sense, it's like to art, you know, which is a subjective thing. But we're so passionately attached to these things that I feel like we are biased in that way, even.
I mean, I definitely think that in a lot of ways, making music has made me listen to music differently. And in a way, it puts me at a disadvantage. But I always remind myself of that. Like, and I know that that's part of the way I ingest music. It's like you can't separate that.
But you're more like that than me. Like I feel like I have like my junk food kind of music consumption kind of thing where I'll just take in, like sometimes I just want to listen to like a bunch of like just like EDM and like some super like house music that's kind of like a playlist that was thrown up on Apple, you know what I mean? And I hear a lot of music that sounds very loopy, like somebody just kind of sat there and threw together a bunch of loops. But I'm such a fan of like music production and production techniques and all that kind of stuff, and like a kind of a student of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you just said you're not listening to it for pleasure. You're listening to it for like.
But it does give me pleasure because I'm into it.
Market research.
No, it's not really market research. It's more like you could say maybe research for my technical side of what I do, but not even. I'm not really listening like that. I'm not like in the middle of listening to it be like, ooh, that sounds like chorus and delay and reverb. Like, no, I feel the feelings. I do. I can. But for the most part,
a little bit,
is that I enjoy it. But I'm not gonna be like, oh, I wouldn't make something like this, so I won't listen to it. Like I
don't do that either.
I think you do a little.
I don't. But the fact is that since I don't do music production,
you come from a different place.
I'm not turned on by interesting music production. I'm still looking for a song.
Yeah.
You know, but the fact is that, you know, in your little bouts of listening to music, first of all, you don't like a lot of it, and you can't fake that.
Yeah.
And you found some gems that you've shown me, and then I'm like, oh my God, that is dope. And so then we continue to listen to the good ones that you did find, but there's got to be something that's good about it.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're listening to a plethora of different things, your mind is, because you make lyrics, melody, and music, your mind is now looking at so many different things. Whereas for me, the music could be great, but if the song doesn't kick in, I probably will lose interest. That's the truth. It's just the way I listen. I can't help the way I listen. I can't help what I'm looking for. Yeah. It's just like if I go to the beach, I'm looking for a nice place to sit down in the sand and get the sun. I'm looking for nice water.
Yeah.
And it's almost just like, well, why are you looking for nice water? And I'm like, that's what I like. Nice, clear, blue water. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have to pee. Time out. Cool. So we're gonna wrap this one up right here, right?
Just kidding. Oh, is this the ending?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is, I think, a good place to wrap. I mean, we said a lot of cool stuff to each other.
If you don't say so yourself.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know what if you enjoyed the conversation, of course, and if there's anything that you would like to hear us discuss or cover, anything that you think you want to hear us give our take on, and we'll try to cover that. And don't forget to like and follow and subscribe and do all of those things everywhere. And check out our new song, Como Suena, which is out everywhere.
Oh no, it's this. It's always this.